Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of science, the show of kids, whiskey, brandy, and Waco, Texas. It is a very special conversation today. I think that we've all really been impacted, especially in the craft world, by this guy's work. And it was a pleasure to spend the whole day with Chip Tate, now of Tate & Co. Distillery in Waco, Texas. But he'd been in the news recently, and the news and the media had depicted him in a very, very sour way, as if he's this rogue wave just wanting to cause trouble, just wanting to ruin business relationships, all this kind of bullshit. I'll just put it that way. So I'm not going to cast any commentary or narrative on this situation, but I think this is the first time in a detailed and a nuanced and a very diplomatic way that Chip talks about his departure from Balcones Distillery. But that as just a small piece of the overall narrative and a small piece of this overall really wonderful, I mean, it was great being down. This is a great conversation. I think it's a really important one to have. But above anything else, your thoughts about Chip, your thoughts about Balcones whiskey, that product during Chip, post-Chip. There is some amazing brandy on the way. So even if we don't see some whiskey sometime soon, it's not going to matter because this brandy is delicious. And when it hits the streets, you guys will absolutely love it. So I'm going to stop rambling here, and I hope you guys enjoy this epic conversation with Chip Tate.
But honestly, I mean, most times, in many respects, it's easier having 5 than 1.
Will they take care of themselves?
They take care of each other.
That's what
a
I
lot.
mean. Yeah.
You know, you can tell the 13-year-old to, you know, go bathe the babies or whatever.
Yeah.
And she'll bitch about it, but she'll do it.
Yeah.
Of course, there are sometimes times when they're kind of all going through the moment. They're like, oh, why do we have so many damn kids? You know. But
it's like the Waltons, though, right? The Tates,
yeah,
the Waltons.
Yeah, I guess so.
Did you ever? Was that what you imagined when you were? Did you grow up like in a larger family?
No, my wife did.
Yeah.
I had one. You know, I was a typical Protestant kid.
Yeah.
I had one sister. We had 2 cats.
Older, younger,
Younger.
Where'd you guys grow up?
Lynchburg, Virginia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the one that always gets confused for Lynchburg, Tennessee, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the funny thing is that all my family, at least over the last 100 years, say, is from Eastern Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents moved to my parents moved to Lynchburg when I was, well, basically right before I was born.
Oh, okay, so you were actually born in?
Yeah, I was born in Lynchburg, and we actually were in Germany for about 4 years when I was a kid, from about 2 to 7.
Oh, really? Was it military stuff?
No, my dad was in the nuclear business.
Oh, okay. What kind of piece of it? Engineering?
Yeah, engineer. He was an engineer. Retired a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But
any big takeaways for you, like socially? Did you?
I'm sure it made me even weirder than I would have been otherwise, because to whatever degree you can socialize by 2, I'd kind of done some of that, and then everything changed, and then I was just about adjusted to the new place, and we changed back again. So,
man,
but by 10th, 11th grade, I was starting to get it back together. A little bit.
It took a little time.
A little bit, yeah.
So did you guys move back to Virginia then?
Yeah, we moved back to, right. So, except for that 4-year stint, it was, born in Lynchburg, moved there, moved back to Lynchburg, and I didn't leave until I went to college.
Oh, really? How is it growing up? Because I grew up kind of all around, but more Midwestern places. I never really lived in the South. If we could call Virginia the South, I think that's fair, probably.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
What kind of trouble to get into? Drinking whiskey, punching frogs. I mean, what exactly?
Yeah, I mean, it is funny to think about how different the spoken and unspoken rules were.
Yeah.
So, this was. I marvel on this a lot. So you look at, I'm not a technophile or technophobe, but I mean, I certainly use computers. I've run a small IT company before. And, you think of all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like when I was growing up till, 9th, 10th grade, like computers weren't really a thing. I mean, they were out there, but you didn't have them at home.
Right, exactly.
Or if you did, they were like, I don't know what you do with them. You play
I don't want to type a paper up.
Yeah, I mean, that was, when I was in high school, that's when they were starting to become useful for things. Basically, they were glorified word processors.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
Windows 3.1 days, or is it before even
Before, this was, 8088 DOS stuff. Yeah, and then Windows 3.1 when, the whole world changed.
Amazing, yeah.
I'm a Mac guy now, but whatever.
So am I.
Yeah, but all in all, yeah, we would go out. We would come home from school, and we'd walk to school a couple of miles, or at least primary school.
Yeah.
That was no big deal. Walk home, and as long as you're getting your homework done and all that, it's like you'd be home by dinner or dark, whichever was first. You go out on your bikes, wherever you went.
Just do your thing.
Do your thing.
That's how it was.
And as long as nobody was still bleeding, it's
Scabbed
like,
over, you're fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like a Vegas principle. As long as I don't need to know about it, as long as I'm not going to get a call from Mrs. Jones later or whatever, then you guys did whatever you guys did. So
it's fine. Bygones be bygones.
Chip has a, his friend's got a bag of binoculars. Like, what are you talking about? That didn't come up. Why you got a cold snitch? Like, I mean, like your parents would be like, what? What are you doing?
We didn't need to know that. We know bad things happen, but they happen.
Did somebody get in trouble? Like, this is all perfectly normal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's good getting in trouble.
It's a different world.
Do you feel differently now? Like if your kids were just going to go out and bike? Like that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're different or I mean, it's hard.
It is.
I wouldn't just let them go. I guess it's almost like my father-in-law. He rides motorcycles all the time and has done
like choppers,
anything, anywhere from like Hondas to Harleys. I mean, he's done that since he was a teenager. And what he'll always say is like, if you don't grow up riding motorcycles, don't do it. Horrible idea. You'll never really learn it.
Yeah.
You kind of he's never been in a serious accident because
he has that experience, right?
He has that experience, and some of it's luck, but also just being super careful,
right?
Kind of beaten into you that everything will kill you. Like, assume that everything will kill you. But yeah, I don't know what they would get into.
Do your kids even know how to get into trouble, like outside of the house now? They do. Okay.
Oh yeah. No, I mean the funny thing is the oldest three are my stepkids, so genetically I can't take either credit or blame.
It's a nice neutral ground, right?
Well, the 15-year-old is remarkably like me in certain ways, which means we either get along or clash, probably more than the others. But, they're not as sophisticated on the internet and all that yet as I am. So look at the search history. You're like, Henry, what are you up to? He's like, nothing. It's like, dude, don't tell me. I know what oxidizers are. Okay, I know what you do with these things. Okay, don't bullshit me.
Like a modern dad.
I'm just saying, if you want to go blow some stuff up, we could do that. But if you go do that on your own, we're gonna ground you until you're dead. Yeah, because I know you think you have the judgment, and I know that you don't.
Yeah, that's amazing though. I wouldn't imagine that those are the kinds of things that people would search for,
Oh, yeah.
But that goes to show you, I mean...
You could find just about anything. And that was the difference then is we could, in a way, get away with more because, where were you going to find out such things?
Yeah.
You had to, like, clandestine searches in the public library, so you don't go up and be like, so I'm looking to make plastique. Do you have any books on that? Like, you can't say that.
You know what plastique is, right? That bomb thing? I want to make some bomb.
It's like a proto, C4 kind of.
Right. So you see Die Hard? It's in Die Hard.
Yeah. I mean, we may have played around with some of that stuff, but very responsibly. We're a mix of kind of like, I don't want to say amateur terrorists because that's entirely wrong. We like to blow stuff up, but it was only
But kids like to blow stuff up.
Stumps.
Yeah, right? Who cares?
But we would go out. I mean, this was the Boy Scout geek part. We had some like calculated blast areas.
Yeah, exactly.
With elevations to know that if there were any rocks, which we'd clear, they might blow up to this far. So you don't find out that you killed some 8-year-old, 3 blocks down with a stone. Yeah, whatever.
No, but that's an amazing amount of foresight that kids don't necessarily have. I guess this ties it back together where you're saying like, I
was a weird kid, but it's exactly. And it's just, I guess maybe they're sneaky like we were, but in some ways not as good at it. It's
not
like,
as good, yeah.
Because if you can't be wearing, like if you were going to, for instance, find a bunch of random leaves and roll them up and try to smoke them, like you can't be wearing the same jacket that you were wearing when you smoked them when you walked back in the house.
Yeah. See, this would make you a really good killer. Is that you think about these? You
got to think about these things.
It's either entrepreneur or serial killing. I think it's really those poles. That's all that you can do.
Yes. I've only explored one of those. But yeah, it's definitely a different world.
Do you remember the Jolly Roger handbook?
Yeah. I remember that. But that was still kind of after the fact. We were I remember by 10th grade or so getting good access to the chemistry lab.
Oh, wow.
And, you can get if you can get concentrated nitric or sulfuric acid.
Yep.
You can do some stuff.
Spilled it on my hand one time because I thought I was like, there's no way it's like it is an alien. There's no way that acid will burn through your hand.
You'd seen Fight Club too.
Mm-hmm.
You were.
Well, this is before Fight Club because you're probably my age. I'm 36 now.
I'm 41.
Okay, so a little bit older. So Fight Club, and then that whole thing where you throw baking soda on the acid.
Yeah.
You want to throw water on it. Or no, he had lye, which is totally basic, and he had throw vinegar on it, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Neutralize it.
Yeah. Which is there you go. That is the metaphor for smart rambunctiousness.
Yeah.
Insightful, perhaps.
Yeah, you got to think about that because it just, I'd like to say that I had, good morals on it. I was part of it, but of course some of it was strictly self-interested.
Yeah.
That the amount of freedom that you had was a direct result of how bad you had or had not screwed up.
Yeah. Oh, that's absolutely right.
If you didn't get caught.
More freedom.
Way more freedom. And just think of all the stuff you were not going to get to do anymore because they're going to be watching your butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't get caught.
See, perfect killer, Chip. This is a great conversation.
You can't get caught. It's key.
This is key.
But anyway, so...
Well, so how was the high school experience? I only can imagine from, to preface this, like you walked me around the new distillery here, and there are these massive, just glorious pieces of equipment. You guys are making the stills yourself. Like you have an understanding, I'll put it this way, been to a lot of distilleries. You have an understanding of this stuff on a molecular level that I seldom get experience to and exposure to from these guys. Yeah. And so where does that start? I mean, your dad's obviously in the weeds and the details with nuclear engineering and all that, but for you, where did that start? I
mean, that is probably where it started. I mean, I was definitely a science geek. Worked as, like grunt third class, but still did some stuff with the nuclear company through high school and even into college. But that was, I didn't really, I don't know. I learned a lot of the basics. I learned a lot of the science, a lot of the engineering principles, especially design principles. I have to say there is a good connection between the nuclear power world and the distillery world that way. You call it this grand mindset.
Yeah.
You make sure that if everything goes wrong, the system shuts down safely rather than blows up. That's important.
That's a really good point.
And so that mindset definitely carried forward. But actually, I ended up getting a degree in philosophy, which was a bit of a surprise for the nuclear company, too.
Not why, but why? What was the detour?
I was doing quantum in my sophomore year.
And, where'd you go, by the way?
William and Mary.
Okay.
And had a great professor who was also a jazz pianist and just one of those really great global thinkers, and just said, the questions you're asking are great questions, but they're philosophical questions. They're not. Physics doesn't answer why. It just doesn't. It's not.
That's not
by definition. Well, by definition, physicists and scientists study what and how things are connected, but never ultimate questions of why.
Yeah.
That just is the proper purview of philosophy or religion, depending on your point of view. And so I kind of started exploring those things.
What were you like? Was it a girl? Sometimes it's a girl for everybody that sends them into these kinds of
No.
introspective states.
No, I don't know.
The dark side of the moon?
Could have been. No, I mean, I think I was already taking some philosophy classes, and I mean, some of it was just the effect of going to a liberal arts school where courses and areas of study that don't exist in high school, philosophy, sociology, psychology, you're interested in. So you say, I'll take one of those, I'll take one of these. And it interested me. It wasn't, I mean, it ultimately was a smart move. I did not fully think through, like, I was not very good at reading.
Okay.
In terms of, I'm very ADD and did not know it at the time. So I had a hard time, like, reading books.
Right. But that was maybe manuals were easy? Because you like to do something? Oh,
technical stuff. Yeah, I can read technical stuff quickly. And that was why math and science were good, because you just have to, understand a principle or an equation. And then each time you do a problem or solve it, it's like little iterations of attention.
Yeah.
Rather than having to hold.
God, we're reading Faulkner. That's just
or way worse, like a lot of the German theologians. The sentence is like 2 pages long. Yeah. And that's a lot of memory to have to. You're like, wait, what were we talking about again? He hasn't even got to the verbs yet.
Who's the deep one? The very deep German philosopher. There's one. It's not Rousseau because he's French, but obviously you got Kafka. Nietzsche, probably Nietzsche.
Nietzsche was a lot more succinct. No, I mean, I'm thinking of like I'm blanking on different names, but
there's the one, and I think Kempt, but he's the painter, but nonetheless, like it's verbose, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff, but it was good for me because I'm still a huge advocate. I think one thing that's really good about that kind of a liberal education is it teaches you how to think.
Yeah,
I mean, learning how to write helps you think better, clearly. And that is important no matter what you do.
Sure.
Ironically and kind of fortuitously in college, when I made that transition to philosophy, so the first reaction from the nuclear company, because I had this little small scholarship where I was supposed to work there during the summers, and they're like, what the hell do we do with this guy? He's a philosophy major? Like, what is that? They sit around and like look at their navels? Like, what is that? And so
they grow beards, make whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, beards weren't even a thing. They didn't know. So they put me on a project, now what you'd call business writing.
Okay.
Before business writing was a thing. The basic point was that hardly anybody's building nuclear plants anymore. The vast majority of the business is doing work on existing nuclear plants, cleaning, repairing, fuel rods, all that. And so you've got these proposals that go out, and there might be 10 companies or 5 companies that put in a bid for the Duke power plant.
Right.
And one thing that had changed a lot in the industry is you had a bunch of MBAs sitting on the other side of the table rather than senior engineers. And so they were kind of laying out these courtesans in front of the MBAs, and they're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And I had some technical knowledge, and so I would kind of sit with our engineers and say, so why is this good? And we're like, well, why is that good? And finally we would say, okay, so what you're saying is, on average, there's 35% less chance of an unplanned outage with this design versus a conventional design. They're like, well, yeah. I'm like, that's what we need to say.
Yeah, wow.
Like, that's so you
You're like a translator, basically, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of that. So it actually turned out to be some of the most interesting work that I got a chance to do once they didn't know what to do with me.
Did you ever, was it hard? Did you ever sit across the table from people that obviously have no idea what the fuck's going on? And you having to like just be nice about it and kind of like walk them through? Was
you mean in terms of the engineers?
No, the engineers always know. But like would some people bid to help you guys out, or would you bid?
No, it was always the other way.
Okay.
Yeah, this is now it's framatome. People know, but it was Babcock's and Wilcox, and then BW&T. And it was kind of, they were bought out and resold and whatever. But
so you're the guy then at the table.
Yeah, I was. Well, I wasn't at the table. I mean, I was again. I'd graduated to like lackey second class at that point, But I was writing the stuff that the people would use that were sitting across the table.
You're like a paralegal.
Yeah, like a paralegal assistant.
Okay.
It was kind of it was pretty. Like, I sometimes got to use a cubicle.
Ooh.
When Joe was out or something.
Yeah.
Like I was that high up. No, I mean, I had my own office, but I was.
We're talking like 20, 21?
Yeah. I mean, I was certainly not going to be negotiating with Duke Power.
Yeah.
Directly.
Yet, right?
No. But anyway, so that was, and then later I did seminary, which was kind of interesting.
Interesting. Any denomination particularly?
Presbyterian.
Okay. Is that where you?
I grew up Presbyterian.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really religious. I mean, I'm not anti-religious. I'm not one of those, but I always say that after very, very careful study, I've determined that I don't know.
Yeah, so agnostic.
No, well, kind of agnostic.
It's a hard line
in the true sense of agnostic.
Yeah.
A lot of agnostics are kind of militantly agnostic, which is ironic, but I have a sensibility about those things, but I guess if anything, I'm more of a mystic. The mystery of it all is pretty clear to me.
Oh yeah, sure.
But
the nebulous nature of all of it.
There's a lot of good stuff in the Old Testament that way, like Job.
Yeah.
And what is the takeaway message? It's like, you think you know, you don't know.
You don't know.
Okay, that's all you really need to know. You don't know yet.
Yeah, which is good.
Got that?
That's totally good.
Good. Yeah, that's the whole point.
So when did that? Were you done with the nuclear power?
Yeah, by that point I wasn't. That was just through the end of college, and then went off to do that because I wanted to help people, and there was kind of a, skipping through some of the details. It was kind of this parallel track of I had been really serious about baking and cooking from the age of like 12.
Really?
And then I had stuff I did at school or heading toward a job, and these were separate.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was gonna go to college. I remember having this conversation with my parents, and then go to culinary school, and they were like, "Oh, you can't do that," because in their minds, they and their parents had been climbing out of a blue collar existence,
right.
Because that's how they kind of saw the world.
Yeah.
And not that isn't a thing anymore, but we all know that those lines are different than they used to be.
Totally is. Yeah.
You don't think of a chef as blue collar.
Yeah, not anymore. Like, that's a great point. There's
right.
actually a very, very valid and prosperous career out of being a bartender now, right? Where there wasn't necessarily, it was considered.
And you wouldn't necessarily assume that person had gone to college or that person didn't have several graduate degrees.
Right, exactly.
You don't know. There's a million paths that lead to that.
Yeah.
And no one clear path leading to that.
Sure.
It's not like you say, okay, now you're in such and such grade, so you're going to begin basic mixology.
Yeah.
It's not a home economics elective
right.
that you can go into.
Although it should be. I think that would actually be pretty good. Making Tom Collins along with making fried rice.
I think, we'd have to reform a lot of things about the current legal structure. But I am definitely, I don't want any child of mine leaving home without any aesthetic sense about food, including alcohol. So,
which it is, because you talk about
it's
parallel
my
paths.
particular branch of culinary science.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, it is food.
Yeah.
Especially depending on what you're drinking. You chew on that shit a lot. So.
Exactly.
What kind of things were you really interested in making at that point then?
I did a lot of sauces. I did a lot of baking, general cooking. I actually started playing around with beer somewhere in my teenage years. I don't know if you'd really call it. The Sumerians might have recognized it as beer, but I don't know if Anheuser-Busch would have claimed it.
I don't know if people recognize Anheuser-Busch as beer now, though, too. So
well, yeah, there's that.
Depends,
but
right?
I had access to like wheat germ and brewer's yeast.
Oh, wow.
3-liter bottles. So
yeah.
I was figuring out how to contain a fermentation, which is a bad idea.
Yeah.
But getting caught by my mom was even a worse idea.
Did she?
She has a great nose.
So
she's not a liquor snob.
Okay.
She likes good stuff, but she had a legendary nose. She once found she was in a hallway that, I don't know, maybe it was 20 feet long, and through 2 closed doors and at least 5 piles of extremely dirty laundry in my sister's room, found an empty bottle of vodka, closed, glass bottle.
What?
By smelling it.
Really?
This sounds, I would never tell this story if it weren't true, because it sounds unbelievable.
Yeah.
Except for I watch it, and I'm like, how the? You're going to be like, Lassie? Is Timmy in the well? You could see her kind of smell like, what is she doing? And she found it, and And I remember my sister, first of all, lying about it. And I was like,
but you're talking
I want to be your lawyer.
Yeah,
Ironically, she's a lawyer now. And be like,
oh, interesting.
Say nothing. Like, certainly don't deny. Because you're losing credibility by the moment.
Right,
here.
right.
Like, who, with the maid, put an empty bottle of vodka under your dirty clothes that she would have, just, don't talk.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think that was part of my dad's been into, both my parents have been into wine.
Mm-hmm.
They learned that, actually. They grew up Southern Baptist. And when we went to Germany, we were in the south, in the Rhine Valley.
Oh,
and so they got exposed to wine there and a totally different mindset about it.
Right.
Because
it's such a big part of culture there.
Well, yeah, and the whole idea of not drinking, especially then in the 70s, was just like, you don't drink liquids, you don't drink alcohol. If this isn't alcohol, this is wine.
Yeah.
If it has alcohol in it, it's like, yes. And it's like, well, we don't believe in drunkenness. It's like, well, no one believes in drunkenness. Like, what are you talking about? Like, drink wine, just not too much.
Yeah.
And eat, but not too much. Sleep, but not too much. Like, what
Amazing.
are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so
it loosened up the idea.
Yeah, well, that got them really. My mom had always been a big cook, but that certainly added layers of new influence.
Yeah.
I think to what they liked and what they did.
That's amazing. And so Germany, you could just credit Germany for opening their eyes to that stuff.
Yeah, that was really a huge part of it. So we drank a little bit of wine growing up, and we'd talk about that. And there were a few vineyards around then, not as many as now, but kind of played around with that. And,
yeah. So maybe you look back at these single moments sometimes, and that just kind of changed the whole trajectory of things.
Yeah. So
maybe if just as an offshoot, they weren't more open and kind of liberal-minded about wine, maybe you wouldn't have went down that path.
Oh, definitely. It's interesting. I had all these different influences, and I don't want to say careers because that makes it sound too substantial or lengthy. But I definitely, there was a time I was in seminary and did that sort of thing, and then worked for Liberty Mutual for a time because I needed to, because I was following my then first wife, around getting, I was the graduate spouse, so I could get whatever job I could get.
Gotcha.
And all these different things that kind of prepared me to start businesses later, although
you didn't know
that was not the plan until pretty late in the game. I planned around, I guess it was 98, 99, somewhere in there. I was like, I spend every living, breathing moment thinking about beer, reading about beer and brewing. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
And plan to start a brewery when I came here to Waco.
So because I want to get it a little bit clear. So you finished your philosophy degree at William and Mary, right?
Yeah, and I'd started brewing during college.
Okay, started brewing during college.
Like properly.
Properly?
As
I was going to say you got
germ.
caught doing wheat germ.
Never got caught.
You didn't get
but
caught.
It was from grain, alcoholic, and had bubbles. But I don't know if it was really beer beyond that. Yeah.
It was something.
But proper brewing around, 18. So basically like freshman, sophomore year in college.
And so then you're saying pursuing a graduate degree or
later.
So the brewing thing is kind of taking foot and all that.
Yeah. So I was, occasionally reading theology, which I was there to do.
Yeah. When
I wasn't, reading Jean de Clercq and all the, major brewing texts and trying to figure all that out. So, but long story short, I got delayed in starting the brewery once I moved here.
So what brought you to Waco then?
Margaret, my first wife.
Okay.
So again, we met in college, Margaret and I, and both did philosophy. She went off to graduate school in philosophy at Notre Dame. So she was up in South Bend, Indiana, and I was in Richmond, Virginia. And then 4 years later, I was done. She was still working on her PhD. So I moved up there.
To Indiana?
So we actually did have a year in Switzerland together. I had a graduate fellowship in Switzerland, but anyway, that not directly connected to the.
Yeah, still a pretty nice trip.
It was cool. And anyway, so we moved up to South Bend, and that's when I did, the Liberty Mutual thing and the odds of some fine dining, part-time waiting and just whatever I could do. And then really got serious about saying, okay, I want to start a brewery.
Yeah.
So she got a tenure track job at Baylor, which brought us here.
Yeah. In philosophy?
In philosophy.
Okay.
And I was going to start the brewery. So we came here and she said, well, let's get settled in. The political situation at the university was kind of hot. And so it was like, okay, let's just ride this out a little bit. So I got what was supposed to be a temporary job. And by the time I left my job at Baylor, I was the assistant dean of graduate enrollment management and academic technology.
That's a long title, Chip. What does it mean? Tell us what it means.
I don't even know what it means. No, I mean, the funny thing is it was longer than that before they figured out it wouldn't fit on the business card.
I see.
And of course, that's the more important thing. It doesn't matter what you're asking a person to do.
Yeah.
But it won't fit on the business card. I mean, well, we got to change it then. So, anyway, no, that was very good. A lot of interesting experiences, but at the end of the first marriage, along with everything else, it was like, this is not why I came. This is not like, if I want to do what I want to do, let's do it. And I really was turning into more of a whiskey drinker.
Was she supportive at least of your idea to be ambitious and an entrepreneur? Or she was more about her career? I think
it was definitely more about her career.
Yeah.
I think the idea made her very nervous.
Why do you think?
I'm sure, a lot of it just has to do with the experiences in your past. Yeah. I mean, I think she'd had a few people in her family who'd done that and kind of had mixed success. So well. And, a lot of it's just perception too. I mean, not that it isn't risky, but I think there's a mindset that, at least in my early adulthood, was still prevalent, certainly in my dad's generation, that, the safe thing to do is you get a practical degree,
right,
and you go work for a good company, and you work hard and they'll take care of you.
Sure.
And that is just not the modern reality. I mean, there's no...
You make your own path.
You make your own path, and there's no guarantee that any given company will take care of you indefinitely, certainly. And so you kind of, I don't want to say you're on your own, but when you look at it like that, you realize that there are risks being an entrepreneur and not being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And you just have to choose.
Talk about, like, trying to understand why you're here.
Right.
Not being an entrepreneur, I think, makes you really question why you're here. Because it's true. It's like an innate thing for so many of us. If we don't pursue it, like, we're not following the love,
Yeah, and I think over time, whether I knew it or not, I was becoming increasingly less employable, in the sense that I was more willing to grab hold of my own projects and do whatever it took, and had increasing difficulty following a bad plan or something like that, just because it was the plan.
Right. Because you could poke holes in it, right? Because you're...
Well, and not that other people couldn't, but some people can kind of be okay with that.
Yeah.
And I certainly, embrace even now, feel like if you work for a company, you work for somebody, you either need to execute that plan or leave.
Right.
You need to not just...
It's not about you, right? It's like, you got to go.
Right. I mean, that's what you're there to do. But so rather than just being an intolerable pain in the ass, I decided to leave.
Is that your nickname? The intolerable pain in the ass, Chip Tate?
One of many. One of many. Okay. My wife prefers shorter nicknames, but I'm not sure I should say that online.
No, I mean, I've been...
Yeah, there are various 4 and 3 letter words she combines depending on it. No, I'm just...
Yes, we'll leave it to everybody's imagination to wonder how amazing these nicknames are.
I mean, obviously, I'm never actually at fault.
Sure.
But that's not always commonly understood. So,
Right. Read the stories. I mean,
there you go.
It's never your fault.
Never my fault.
Never.
But anyway, so I just really decided, it was 2008 essentially, so I left the assistant dean thing.
Mm-hmm.
Started
like
a small tech company.
now.
33.
Oh, okay.
I think that's right.
My math's terrible, apparently.
Well, or mine, I don't know.
Either way, but it's in your 30s,
right.
Like, you're hitting your stride.
Well, you're probably right. I was probably 31 when I left there. I was 33 in 08. Yeah, that makes sense. When I started the distillery, or thereabouts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I met my second wife.
Interesting.
Nikki.
Where did you meet her?
Here in town.
Oh, cool.
And she was crazy. Basically, I said, I'm building a distillery, which I've never done, make whiskey, which I've never done commercially, and gonna make it faster than other people, and I'll be fine. She was like, okay, sure.
Cool. So you're like, all right, you're perfect.
or crazy. You know, I was mixed because it's like, I'm not sure I can endorse your believing in me as a rational person, but
you sound so damaged.
No. But it's one of those things where you're like, okay, like that's cool. I don't know why you believe me. I know that you can believe me.
Yeah.
But how do you know that you can believe me? That's always been one of my, I trust people sometimes too much more than I should. And so I'm always intrigued by people that have that natural
just ability
gift.
To like stand behind.
Well,
something.
It's a weird little anecdote, but it's true. So speaking of that first marriage, I had no issue with going to a strip club. I just never had.
Yeah.
And so she's like, "Oh, you gotta go to a bachelor party. Like my brother's gonna take you out.
I'm getting this stuff club. Just this past week.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, cool, sure, let's do it. So we go, and it's to one here in Waco. So it's not.
I'm not going to make any comments. Let's just assume it's creme of the crop there.
Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. So you walk in, and I'm a straight guy. I'm totally down with
boobs are great.
Yeah, it was great.
Who doesn't like boobs?
But then you start looking around and you start noticing some things. So one of the things I noticed is we're sitting there. We've just walked in. Obviously, never been there before. 15 minutes, 20 minutes go by, and someone's about to get up on stage. And so she just hands me a bag of money and says, hold on to this for me, would you?
The girl ready to dance?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I always remember just being stupefied because it's like, I know you can trust me, but how do you know that you could trust me?
Well, I'm asking myself, how did she know she could give you a bag of money at a strip club?
And then it occurred to me that probably one of the major skills in being a stripper is being able to read people better than as well as a cop can.
That's
right?
A good point.
Just to realize like who's dangerous and who's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, wow, that's really interesting, actually.
It's almost like a sixth sense.
Yeah, because I imagine, never having been a stripper, but nonetheless, that's got to be a big part of being successful, right?
Sure.
Is not ending up in dangerous situations.
Yeah.
So
knowing the marks too,
stuff like that. So I was pretty intrigued. It's like she just intuitively knew that I would never take her money, like just by looking at me.
Wow.
And it's like,
do you have the beard then?
Yeah, I did.
That's even more interesting. Guys with beards sometimes. I'm not.
What is it, like the dog video? Have you seen the Sad Dog Diaries?
No.
You got to check it out. It's really funny. But there's a little part in there where the dog says, he turns his circles around before he goes poop. He's always on the lookout for gremlins and men with beards and hats.
Yes.
Because obviously both of those things are dangerous.
That's totally dangerous.
If dogs know it, it must be true.
Has to be true.
So yeah, to your point.
Yeah, maybe
even bearded, she could tell that I was not going to take her. Probably a few $100s,
but still that's a lot.
Interesting. Yeah. It was her living for the night, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, and trusting it to you. So you do that thing, and you get. This is the first time, though, right? The first marriage, the first bachelor party, or
no.
Okay, so this is the second one.
Yes.
Your current wife's like, "Come on, just do the thing."
Exactly. She's like, "You got to go." Yeah.
And you're like, "Well, why do you know you can trust me?" Stripper gives you money. You're like, "Hey, why do you know you can trust me?" Now I get it.
It's totally interesting. And since you're about to be married, you should know this too, that there is nothing cooler than going to a strip club with your wife.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Because you're like the coolest guy there. Like I never thought about this because you're totally safe.
Sure.
Because you're there with your wife.
Right.
And, my wife is a nude figure drawer and mom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she's, totally into that. She's also like, so have you always been into dancing? Just like
great conversation.
Oh, cute. Where'd you get that outfit? It's off. Never mind. Oh, you're beautiful. And then some really skinny chick will come up and be like, you just need a little more weight on you, though. You want something to eat? No, I'm good.
That is an interesting dynamic. I gotta be honest. Like, I've been to a strip club one time. It was for my friend's 21st birthday. I was a little bit older than him, and I just didn't. I felt like a mark the whole time. Yeah. So I like these honest, real moments with people that don't involve me coaxing them with money to talk to me.
Right.
So I didn't pay you, and now I'm giving you booze. So maybe it's not so different from stripping. However, there was just that kind of weird.
But I would have talked to you anyway, even without the booze.
Really?
So, yeah.
Oh fuck! Really?
I know. But now that you said that, I'm gonna have to ask for more booze.
You might as well.
It's good booze. Yeah. This is great stuff.
So you want to get? So we are. It's a perfect bookmark to go into the next chapter if we want to drink whiskey. But I know you drink whiskey, or we can drink this
or
Racia,
both.
or both. It doesn't matter to me. But what I think the epic stride of your career, and as I look at the Imbibe Top 75, you're part of that this year again. You know, whiskey, man. This is the next chapter, so I'm excited. We'll refill and then figure this one out.
Yeah, let me pour you a little of your own booze.
Thank you. And this is a Racia. So
That's right.
The one thing I'll say about it, and I love it, this one is what, around 46%?
It is 46%.
46%. This thing sits and ferments for over 30 days.
Really?
Yeah. So you get some crazy, crazy funk and cheese, and you get all that weird bacteria in there.
Yeah, I really dig that about it.
Isn't that crazy? Just smelling it. It's like...
Yeah, and I think cheese is exactly... Because I made a little bit of cheese along the way. I've loved to do... I've roasted some coffee. I did bread. You know, I did cheese. And I just love fermentation and kind of...
You're a details guy. You like how things work, I can tell.
I like interconnecting things.
Yeah.
You know, so there are a lot of connections like that. And, well, it's like, I mean, tasting wine with distillers is a fun thing to do because that's one of the worlds where you can talk about a lot of different tasting components that are strangely applicable in distilling.
They totally are.
Not that strangely applicable, but it's just the more broadly you can sort of cast your mental net, the more you sort of see connections and taste connections.
You're a worldly guy, aren't you?
Oh, I don't know. I think I just didn't date enough.
Oh, that's
so
good.
I had a lot of time to sit around and think about stuff.
See, I just watch movies instead of dating. That's all I do.
Yeah, we were 2 hours TV limited, so. Yeah, I had the World Book though.
Wow, I loved World Book, man. That's so good.
Read that stuff. Didn't get much further than B though. Got kind of stuck on B.
B's, there's a lot of stuff in there.
B-E-E-R.
Yeah, Brooklyn, Bronx. Brewing.
Really?
Beards.
A lot? Yeah.
See?
Yeah, that just happened naturally.
Okay, good. Credit. Yeah, so we're going to taste of this guy and see what you think.
Now, this is single distilled, right?
Single distilled, yeah. So much surface area on it
that's it can... That's so
isn't that crazy?
Weird about... Because it's... I mean, they say distilled in clay pots, but that's just the base of the still.
Mm-hmm. It is a copper... Well, yeah, this particular still...
Top, right?
This particular one is a copper. Yeah, there's a big copper, like kind of dome where the distillate will condense and concentrate. But yeah, coming from a mash, I can't imagine it's more than 5-6% alcohol.
Yeah, that's what's interesting. I mean, I guess they just run it really slow.
I think so.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Isn't that crazy tasting though?
Yeah. I've got a Racia in there.
Do you really?
Try it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the exact ABV is because what the label says it is not.
Doesn't taste right.
No, I'll show you what I mean. Hold on one second.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Labeling.
Where did you get that Racia? As Chip pulls out an Azarka bottle.
From someone in Mexico.
Yeah. Amazing. Which state was it made in? I'm sorry, man.
No, I know I said that. It's my fault. I'll pull it out. It's
no, you have to pull it up.
It's near Jalisco.
Okay.
I'm really bad at geography.
Really?
Like epically bad at geography.
But good at science. That's actually surprises me.
I think I just have. I don't know. I think I skipped something somewhere. I was supposed to.
Maybe
social experiment.
But I'm going to tell you, I didn't expect you to have Racia. I didn't expect that you would be so entrenched in all of the spirits, and that's what I like about you. Because people say you're a pain in the ass. Like they tell me that, right? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never talked to him, so I don't know. You know. But then you have all this. You care about it as an art. You care about the whole plethora of spirits, and I think that's lovely.
Well, you know, it's hard to know what to say about that. There are a lot of aspects of this that I feel really strongly about, and I try to never be rude. But, well, I think craft distilling right now, it's a phenomenon as much as it is a movement, and we have to safeguard it. And so there are a lot of people trying to capitalize on it in not entirely honest ways.
Yeah. Well, it's cash grab for a lot of people, man.
Well, sometimes it isn't even that. They think it will be, but the point is that it's almost like doping in sports.
Okay.
Right? You know, if it's 1 in 20 guys doping, then it is what it is. Somebody gets caught doping, and the assumption is, well, that guy was doping, and so that guy's crooked.
Right.
So, But if you have like a cyclist issue, you can't be the one guy in 30 that says, I'm actually not doping. I was like, sure you aren't.
Sure. Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah.
You know, if it's, and not as much anymore, I don't know. Certainly in the not too distant past, it might have been 1 in 10, 1 in 20 distillers that weren't being forthright about the origins of their spirits. Sure. But it was probably 8 out of 10 bottles on the shelf.
I see.
Because they had access to the juice.
Right.
And so, you know, my worry has always been that if the public has a certain image of it, and they know it's somewhat idealized, romanticized, but if they find out it's basically just horse shit, we'll all pay for that.
That's a good point.
We will all pay for that and never recover from it.
Because you lose the rapport, right?
Yeah, basically. You know, the tagline is that craft distillers are just big boys wearing little britches.
Interesting.
You know, that it's a bunch of advertising.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's true, but of course there are a lot of us for whom that's not true.
Yeah.
And it's just important to me to have enough knowledge out there that people don't form that wrong opinion.
How do you feel about the overall, and I talk about this a lot, so we're both distillers at least, which is nice. You're on a much larger scale, have, you know, an amazing reputation.
Thanks.
And what do you think that let's find the best way to phrase this. I think there's a lot of not good work being put on shelves.
Yeah, there are some things that give me pause.
Yes.
And I do wonder how they came to be and how they came to be bottled, but
yeah. And I think it happens, it's even more with whiskeys than anything else.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and I never really know what to think of that. I guess what I mean is I don't know if people don't know that it's not good or if they do know that it's not good. And I mean, so obviously they made it and bottled it.
Yes.
And I guess, I mean, I'm not sure if it's more concerning whether they knew what they put in the bottle or whether they didn't.
It's just as bad, I think, though.
I don't know. They're two totally different problems. And, well, I will say this. I think that there are a lot more good things out there. I mean, first, let's put out what's perfectly obvious to craft distillers, perhaps less obvious to non-craft distillers. It is really hard, especially if you're trying to focus on brown spirits, which so I've always done brown spirits. And I love this stuff. I love what you're doing, but that's just always been my thing. And so you're fighting this war between existing and kind of earning the right to exist, if you know what I mean. So the better the quality you put out, the more range diversity, the more value you offer, the more people see value in the brand.
Right.
At the same time, you need to do that while keeping the doors open. The door's closed and all that's moot.
What does it matter? Yeah.
Because you're never going to do anything again.
Right.
And so there's that trade-off between, you know, in our case, like we put out some young spirits that I thought were still quite good and they did well.
What was this?
Baby Blue was the first thing I put out along with the Rumble. And, you know, people say, oh man, the such and such is so much better than it used to be. And I'm glad to hear that in part. Well, what I always just say is I always believed in every bottling I put out. Right. And I always hope that every bottling is better than the last. That's the goal. But it's a challenge is what I'm getting at. So you and I can be particularly sympathetic to craft distillers who need to try to keep the doors open.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the same time, you know, some of the things out there are just, doesn't seem to be an age problem.
It's not, right. It's just not well distilled. And I don't know where that problem comes in and where people learn. But suffice it to say, it's an interesting place that we're at right now. Because there's a lot of cool stuff and there's a lot of not cool stuff. And there's a lot of people lying about where the juice comes from, and that's a problem. There's a lot of people reclaiming Texas as a brand, which I have a massive problem with, and we haven't done that. It's like, oh, it's Texas whiskey. No, No, sorry.
Oh.
It's not Texas whiskey.
I don't know what you mean.
I know. I'm sure you have no idea, which is perfectly good. Head in the sand, Chip.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, exactly. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating on lots of levels.
Yeah.
But I think what is going to be particularly interesting over the, I don't know if you'd say next 5 years, next 10 years, somewhere in that span, that those of us who've kind of slowly come up, I mean, in some ways, I want to say that it felt like a rapid ascension.
Sure.
Not that we're at the top or anything like that, but I'm just saying that I've been super pleased at how responsive the market and drinkers and everything. I mean, we've been very, very fortunate that way. But at the same time, to get more production capacity, to put all the money together, to put all the things together, continue to do it right, is just an absolute slog. I mean, it's just so hard if you don't come in with bazillions of dollars.
I know. And this stuff's so expensive.
It's so expensive, and it's so expensive to build a distillery. And of course, if you do brown spirits, it's even way more expensive.
And the red even
distillery.
longer, right?
Right. And so you see, I think you're starting to see a lot of those distillers that have been more invisible in the past because they were slowly, kind of the gray goose.
Yeah.
Long runway where they're almost starting to take off. Starting to take off. Starting to get out there and have more product, be in new markets. And then, of course, a lot of the supplies of source whiskey, much of which is great whiskey, are drying up.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting change that I think in many respects is invisible to the end consumer because, of course, I had no idea. I mean, hell, I didn't know.
Get into this.
It was a few years. It was easily a few years as a distiller before I really knew what was even happening with that. I mean, I just didn't know. Because nobody knew. It was just like, if you had a distillery and it said such and such distillery and it said produced or whatever the word was, it's like, well, I assume you've got a place and that's where you make what you make and you put in a bottle and you put your name on it and what else would be true?
Well, because that's what that's what we would naturally think about language.
Yeah.
Like, produced. Yeah, like the guys that make records, they're there in the studio, they're corralling everybody to play at the same time, and these are great songs, they work on it together, right? Like
right.
Just very optimistic look at what produced means. But then
I mean, maybe I was just naive. It was easily a few years into the business before I realized what many of colleagues, competitors, whatever, were doing. And then I was like, what? That's crazy. But my point is that I think that's changing.
Yeah.
Because the movement is maturing. A lot of the distillers that have been out there a little while are starting to kind of come up and be a little more visible. And I think that'll be good for the industry overall.
I think so. The two things, and then we're going to tie back into when you started this whole thing, this movement, which you did start a piece of this thing. So one is that it's really time to innovate and do cool things in the right way. So that's the good part of it, is that it's the Wild West. So anybody that builds the first railroad, they're going to, that they'll be the first to market a lot of this stuff, which is an excellent thing. But the second thing is, too, that I think is really worth noting, and that this is much like the tech industry was in the early 2000s. There will be a bubble.
Oh, yeah.
And there will be a lot of brands that fall to the side.
Yeah.
And that's good and bad.
And I'm always telling different people, especially like you have investor conversations, I say, okay, look, so here's what you're going to read in the near future. You're going to read about how craft spirits has, changed everything, and the world is entirely different now, and the old brands are dead, and da-da-da-da-da. And then, I don't know if it's 5 years or 10 years from now, you're going to read how craft distilling is dead and all this, and all of it's crap. Like, it's not crap. There's a seed of truth in that, craft distilling is hopefully adding something new and innovative to a field in which there's already a tremendous amount of great stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there'll be a bubble where a ton of people get in that maybe shouldn't have or whatever, and that doesn't mean that the movement is dead. There'll be kind of a culling. And we saw this in craft brewing. I think based on the rate of growth, I would expect it might be even more extreme in distilling, because it seems I don't know, as kind of a former amateur statistician, I mean, the reports of growth are so out of control, it's hard to know where the numbers are even really.
Well, and then if you look at a whole category that had 2 SKUs, now it's got 20, obviously the numbers are completely skewed.
Right, exactly.
So, but it's good.
But there is something real going on there, I guess is what I'm saying, is that, there's the movement, there's the actual thing, and then there's the phenomenon. The phenomenon, I think, creates a lot of hype.
Yeah.
That, don't get me wrong, I am more than happy to benefit from hype.
Press,
awards,
all that.
We're still, been fortunate enough not to be totally unknown, but we're not, well known.
Yeah.
So that's invaluable in terms of helping people hear about what we do and the right kind of marketing, right? Which is reaching people who don't already know about something that they would enjoy buying and enjoy drinking, and then they do that. It's kind of a evangelism of sorts, as opposed to trying to kind of create this fiction that generates a feeling of desire that's all based in kind of nothing.
It's it's all kind of this
made up
metaphysical realm or something. Yeah.
Well,
it is you're right.
It's brand stories.
Instant
you hear people
nostalgia, right?
Talk about, what's your brand story? It's like, well, I can tell you what actually happened. Yeah. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what's important to us. Sure. Like, this is what actually happened. This is our true history. But all I mean is we benefit from that. But ultimately, as the hype cools down, which it will eventually, for any tech, for whatever it always does, all we can try to do is make the most of it to get people who will then like it to buy it and keep buying it, to get a foot in the door.
Yeah, it's an interesting place, and something that's kind of I really want to ask you this, and we'll talk, because it's obviously the Balcones story, or the Balcones chapter is a massive thing for the world of whiskey, and for you, and for Waco and all of it. So when you say we, do you still mean Balcones?
No, I meant in that context, we here at Tate and Company, or we as craft distillers. Which
you and I, we.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that whole chapter, well, first of all, is obviously a very important chapter for me.
Yeah.
Way more good than bad. Wouldn't be able to be doing what I'm doing now had that not all happened.
Yeah.
But at the same time is a very strange one for me, because there's kind of the public perception of what happened, and there's what actually happened, and there's huge, fundamental differences.
Well, so here's the thing that, because all right, so maybe I'm the stripper, right? I love people, and I love talking to people, and I've talked to a lot of people at this point. And you're 70 something, so there's been a lot of it. And I walk in, and I've only heard stories about you. I've read things. I know people that are friends of yours as well. And so I went into Blake Slate, really did.
Yeah.
And you're there working on the still. So I'm like, well, obviously you have a good knowledge of fucking mechanics, which is good, right? You're smoking a cigar. So this guy's a guy. He's a guy's guy, right? And then we go and we talk about all these kind of technical details of the equipment. And I'm like, you're on this other level. But then we're sitting down here and we're talking you're just a dude. You're a good dude.
Thanks.
Right? So how the fuck did people get it so wrong? Why did it turn into such a weird story about you going crazy, you brandishing a gun, right? How does it turn into something like that?
Yeah, that was, in truth, that was really just a smear campaign gone wrong. So I'm trying to, so I'm going to stop and start. I'm trying to think what I can say and even what I should say, trying to find the line between truth and discretion.
Sure.
The debate was really a debate between stockholders. And all I'll say is that the investment group, which we did not do business with an investment group.
They probably had a foreman or a chair or something that we were working with.
One of the fundamental issues was we had a very explicit agreement to do business with one individual.
Right.
Only one, who turned out to be a group unbeknownst to us.
Was the person's name aside, what was the organization, or not the organization, but the formation? Like, what kind of format was he presenting himself? Was it an LLC? Was it a corporation?
He was presenting himself as a single individual who then invested together with his brother and his father, but strictly for estate planning purposes.
Okay.
And later, once everything blew up and we were trying to figure out what was going on, because we were just as mystified, that we being me and at that point my legal team, what's this about? Because they weren't responding the way you'd expect. So, for instance, I've had a few investors off and on, not a ton, but I've done this, and it's not that uncommon for investors to get nervous for any number of different reasons. Sure. It could be for personal, financial reasons, psychological reasons, whatever. And normally, you can talk that through, especially if you have an out available for them.
Or you guys have talked about those.
No, I'm saying at the end of the day, if they're just, you can't get anywhere with them.
They want to be able to get out of it.
They want to be able to get out. Whether they'll say,
yeah.
So normally, when that happens, if you go to somebody and say, hey, here's all your money plus a significant premium over a span of time.
They're cool. We're like, all right.
Let's just, we thought it would work out. It didn't work out. So, hey, it's all good.
Yeah.
Because, there have been various frustrating moments that I've had, but in business, stuff like that, you really got to keep it cool. I mean, if I didn't know that before I did academic administration, I definitely knew that after. The guy that rants at a faculty meeting never wins the day.
Right. Yeah, you're totally right. So which makes, you see with the disparity I'm getting here, the incongruence, it's like you are calm, I can tell.
Well, what really happened was these guys were starting to rattle the war drums, which made me very nervous. I tried to find ways to make them more comfortable.
Yeah.
None of that was working. So it's like, I don't know what you want, but I'm worried because I don't know what you want. You don't.
Not articulating it, right? And you guys aren't agreeing, obviously.
Well, it's just one of those things where, you start to worry about hostile intentions.
I see. Did they challenge,
So they were trying to get hold of my stock in
an unethical way.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And I won't speculate as to the reasons for that.
Sure. Well, it's always money,
all the various facts that we've put out there may or may not be connected. And so they were trying to strong-arm me to get me to do things that were not our agreement.
Yeah.
And my position was that we have an agreement and that we should stick to our agreement.
Did it ever infringe on your creative vision for the brand?
Only in terms of stress.
I see.
So, not directly, honestly, I wouldn't say. There were a few times that we probably could have done a little more, or having a little safe working space would have helped. But no, it wasn't really that. It was internal corporate politics. And so, my view, what I kept stating again and again is I said, okay, look, we have to avoid a huge fight.
Yeah.
Because this will be bad. It will be bad. If you don't know it, trust me, no one will win. So if we can't work together, then it's like a marriage. We loved each other once. Apparently we don't love each other anymore. Let's just sort it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? One of us goes, one of us stays. Here are my preferences. Tell me your preference. Let's just figure out. Let's not get to the point that we have each other's stuff on the front lawn on fire and the police are let's just...
Right.
And they wouldn't have it. So...
You think that they didn't want to have any resolution at all?
I think they wanted to push me out. I think they just simply wanted to push me out and take what they wanted.
Did they think they could do a better job than you think?
I don't know. I think I assume they thought they could do as good a job as me, but I don't know that. I mean, it seems reasonable,
sure.
but I don't know. But I know that they were trying to push me out. And so, at one point they even had the sheriffs come, which they'd hired as private security.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know you could do, but apparently you can do.
You can hire him to escort church parking lot goers out on a Sunday. You can hire him for anything, apparently.
Anyway, so the point is, they kind of made a big thing about it, and I said, okay, if you want me to go right now, I'll go. And then we came to an agreement, which was aimed at, again, resolution, about what they were saying was, okay, we'll let you go try to find this or that or the other, which we would accept, and vice versa. Details aren't important, but,
sure.
We discussed a proposal to try to resolve the situation.
And I imagine you wanted. How was you walking away something that you ever really even thought about doing?
That was never in the plan. So,
rejected walking away. Sorry, this is slightly different.
Well, I mean, the irony was that they were trying to create a big scene. I take it, when they did that, and I felt like, other than that being counterproductive, that if I didn't know exactly what they were going for, but I could see how them getting me to lose it would be advantageous.
Got it.
So that was the last thing I was going to do.
Yeah, you saw it. You saw they're trying to get
so
you.
I just
trying
said,
to anger you.
I'll,
rattle the cage.
If that's what we need to do, I don't agree with it, but we don't need to argue about it right now. I'll take some things, and if I'd known, I would have taken more things. I left a lot of things there, but then they sent a proposal, which was basically an ultimatum. Again, not exactly grabbing my stock, but saying, if you can't do these 3 impossible things by this impossible date, then you'll get we'll get this, we'll get that. And I was like, no. That's when the accusations came out of me going to the facility and throwing, threatening to, and frankly, at the time, I didn't have good legal representation.
Yeah.
And so when they went to get the injunction, basically nobody said anything in response. Like, this is nonsense. These are a bunch of unreasonable accusations based in nothing.
Yeah.
Do you have any evidence to suggest this? No one said that.
Right.
So that was the word that was out there, that I was going to shoot the chairman and all this other stuff, and that was absurd.
Yeah.
What actually was going on is we were doing nothing, and I refused to take their ultimatum, and then rather, again, this was all done by email, very
of course, right?
Carefully.
It's like breaking up with someone that you don't really want to date. It's all text messages and emails. No one's ever going to be earnest and in your face about it, which sounds like it.
At this point, there was no question to me that their intentions were not earnest. That something was. They were trying to, quote, get me. I didn't know exactly what that meant.
Right.
But they were not being honest negotiators. So I kind of felt like I had a 20-pound fish on a 5-pound line. I mean, I had all these rights in the operating agreement, and I was also the minority stockholder.
Mm-hmm.
So
you say minority stockholder?
Minority. Okay. So it seemed to me that one of the things I needed to do was not create a gray situation. In other words, if we ended up in court, which it was looking like we were going to, we needed to basically say, no, we haven't done any of these things. In fact, we're going to have our friends over here at Balcones present evidence that they have that proves. So they say, I came to the distillery. You have tapes. I installed audio and video surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to see them. I either am or am not on those tapes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I knew what the answer wasn't. The big debate was that I had negotiated with them very openly to have certain vetoes on the board, including that the board could not meet without me,
right,
or without my consent. And so I said, I don't consent to have a board meeting.
Well, yeah, because you know what they're going to do
so
if
they
they're
couldn't
talking.
fire me.
Because they'd have to.
So they were mad.
Yeah.
Because, the principal in that group was a mergers and acquisitions lawyer, and he'd kind of, this was a chess match where all of a sudden he was in a position he didn't expect to be in.
Yeah.
And
he just thought he could. Was that did you get any sense that long term that's what was going to happen? Because obviously he's a
no, I mean,
sheep's clothes,
because there were other than the rights and other things in the operating agreement, it just never occurred to me. If you've got a distillery, you mostly have a brand, right?
Right.
So I mean, I'm not trying to equate everything we do in art and science to just a brand, but what I mean is brand in the broad, deep sense is it's your reputation. And
That's right. Yeah.
Who people believe you to be, and it controls whether people buy your bottles.
Absolutely. When your name and that brand went hand in hand and really gave you a lot of accolades.
If Balvenie made rum, I'd try it because I like Balvenie. I like what they do. I believe in what they do, and I'd try it.
Sure.
I've never had their rum, but I'd buy it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So essentially all the things they were doing are things that I assume no rational business person would do because it would just, you'd be shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
It's like threatening the captain middle of the sea by, I'm going to light this boat on fire. And it's like, we're all on the boat.
This is our boat.
What are you doing? That's not a good plan, man. So that was kind of part of the plan there is one, to have actual controls, and the other, there's safeguards to you to say, look, guys, like it really all comes down to relationships in the end.
Yeah.
Like if someone's an honest broker, you can say, okay, there's obviously something happening that bothers you a lot, or something that's not happening that's bothering you a lot. Let's talk about that.
Right.
Let's stop talking about this. Like what's bugging you? How can we fix this?
Well, that's what a good person would do.
Well, that's what a smart person would do, because nobody wins a lawsuit, just like nobody wins a war.
Right.
People die on both sides. It is ugly, messy, nasty business. So, but then once you find yourself in it, you do what you need to do.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like Britain in World War II. It's like not really a choice anymore. That's this is happening.
Fight or get,
so,
kill or be killed, right?
Yeah, I mean, you find yourself at war. So, that was the end of it. We went through the whole stuff they put out in the media. It was all false. It created, ironically, I think, a kind of outcry in the industry.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And what was kind of funny to me is people were like, Chip wouldn't do that. I'm like, Chip probably wouldn't do that, but still, that's nonsense. Because I'm a very passionate person, but I get passionate about talking about distillation or something. It's almost like an academic.
Yeah.
You'll sit there and argue as academics about things and not hopefully get personal or insulting, but vigorously debate these things because you care about them.
And you want a higher truth to come of it, right? That's the ultimate
And
goal.
There are kind of rules of engagement, that you don't say anything that is personally insulting to the other person, that you're, it's like sparring or anything else. It's not an actual fight. There are rules.
Yeah.
And the rules are how you take off the gloves when you walk out, and it's all good.
Yep.
And they wouldn't do that. So what was really funny through a lot of the court stuff is like, wait a second. You think Mr. Tate is going to shoot the chairman? Yes. At a board meeting? Yes. The ones he won't go to.
Yeah, right.
It's like, have you seen Mr. Tate? No.
It's all.
Explain it to me again.
Yeah.
Explain it to me again. What is it? And it was just that they weren't getting what they wanted, so they were going to try to just
do it get you out in any way possible.
And I don't respond well to that. Well, I hope I responded well. As much as it was a scary situation, I don't see any value in caving to essentially terrorist threats.
Right. Don't negotiate with
you all got to die. We all got to die of something.
Yeah.
So
when did all that wrap up? All the
December of 14. So to bring that story to a close, it went to court. The court decided entirely in our favor on every point.
Yeah.
as in my favor.
That's right.
And but what happened in between, they'd done a number of things internally, business things, that once I did finally get hold of the books and the bank records and all that, I was not comfortable with as a stockholder.
Interesting. Okay.
And that's important because, of course, I didn't have millions. So to get them out would mean bringing in a third party to buy them out.
Yeah.
Which involves the process of examination and due diligence.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And there's just a number of things that can bring due diligence to a halt.
Yeah.
And there's certain kinds of irregularities where people just don't want to know more. They really don't.
Yep.
They've learned plenty enough.
Yeah.
There were things that had happened in my absence that made me uncomfortable as a stockholder. And so we litigated it. They knew what would happen if no deal was struck.
Right.
Which was not going to be good for anybody, including them.
Yep.
I didn't feel like I could buy them out. So that left only one option.
They buy you out.
So that's what happened. We sat down on December 4th at I'm going to call it a mediation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, we had a deal, and that was it.
How you feeling about the deal now?
I mean, I have mixed feelings about it because, whether it was in my best interest or not, I never would have left Balcones if I'd had any other viable option.
Right.
Because it was my baby.
Yeah.
It's what I built, and it was my heart and soul. And at the same time, if I step back from that emotional reality and look at what we have going here, this is much better for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm building a distillery that's going to be bigger and better than anything I could have had at Balcones. Not involved with those guys anymore.
Was some of the staff? I imagine some of the staff were good friends and things, right?
Well, yeah. Some proved to be good friends. Some proved to be not actually good friends.
How big is the staff over there when you left?
I want to say we had maybe 8 or 9, 10.
God, so it really shook.
Yeah, that was
turn
really.
Their back on you when you left.
There were some people that I'd kind of hoped would have a different response, and to be fair, it's hard to be courageous at times like that and kind of put yourself out there. But
yeah.
I don't know. I think if maybe it's different when you're the actual business owner. And I mean, I'd been out there since the day I founded it. Yeah. It was like, I don't want to die on any hill, but if I have to, it's going to be this one.
Yeah.
So I saw no virtue in kind of caving just to be safe.
Yeah.
Whatever that. I mean, I didn't even see.
But maybe
the
that's
point.
what that characteristic came out in people.
I'm sure that was a lot of it, is that they felt like they had no other choice, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were some disappointments there, and there were some brilliant. Well, there's some people who work here, and some other people that
some good allegiance.
Yeah, that you realize are every bit as tough and then some as you hoped they were.
That's amazing. So that's where luckily now you're starting with that, right? Those kinds of people helping you build this thing out.
You never want to have to test your friendships. And I should mention too that, I mean, don't get me wrong, we'd had a lot of support in the distillery and fans in that sense and all that, but you never really want to test people and say, how much do you love me?
I know it's hard, but when it's important though, sometimes it has to surface.
Well, yeah, I didn't call the vote, but it was really heartening and heartwarming to see how much support there was out there.
Yeah.
That was tremendous. Like I don't want to say I was surprised, but it's just, you always have to keep in mind that, stuff that occupies your entire world isn't as important to everyone else as it is to you.
I know, yeah.
You can, always try to keep in mind that stuff that you find just earth-shakingly important might be somewhere between trivially important and unimportant to other people, maybe. Yeah. But instead, we had massive support.
This particular thing, I mean, I still consider the True Blue the bottle proof one that I had way back in the day. It was hard bottle to get. Yeah. That was one of my favorite. That was probably the one I'd loved the most that you guys ever put out. And so it's like, well, there's something special going on. there's obviously something special going on here in Waco, and I saw it just kind of snowball, and you had this massive amount of industry support. I mean, it was really, really a lovely thing to see. And but I wanted to hear it myself, right? Like I wanted to know what you're going through, and how. So we won't have to dig into Balcones too much, although it is the band. It's like the Police, right? Like
it's always
before you went solo.
No, I always understand it because obviously that, insofar as I have any reputation in distilling, that's where it came from. So,
how long were you there? 6 years?
Well, let's see. March of 2008 to December of 2014.
Yeah.
So 6.5 years, something like that. So anyway, I mean, we've got a great thing here, and it's...
I mean, this is an amazing spot, man.
Yeah, it's a great spot. We've got more space. It's always, it's a challenge to start over, but you look at the flip side, it's kind of a do-over. Like, you don't have... I get to make, hopefully, better mistakes this time.
Yeah.
Staffing, all the other things, picking the right people. When we start out so small as we did, and we started with no money, no space, no anything.
Mm-hmm.
We grew, but we always kind of dragged those chains behind us.
Yep.
I mean, as a business owner, that is such a hard thing because if you take on investment now, you need it, but it always has to do with the value of the company right now, which means you give up certain things, and you're always sort of balancing the risk of going out of business with killing the business you're trying to build by doing the wrong deal.
I know.
With the wrong people. So, all in all, I think this is actually going to be much better long term.
Yeah.
And so maybe the universe kind of forced me into a scenario that was necessary that I never would have or could have chosen on my own. I don't know.
I mean, it might be one of those things where people forget about Balcones, I mean, how do you feel?
Yeah.
It's hard not to be resentful, and it's hard to not have an acrimonious departure as it was. But do you wish them luck in operations? Or are you neutral? Or are you... Because I suspect from that side that it's like, you guys, go ahead. You try and fucking do it now. Go ahead. Right? All bets are off.
Well, they got what they wanted, so I hope they
can make it work.
Feel good about it.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
I wonder how the juice tastes now. I haven't had it since it switched.
I tell people, in my opinion, it's different than it was. And so you got to make up your own mind about it.
Yeah.
I think the influence of a distiller, especially in certain brands more than others. I mean, like, I'm not trying to say that the master distiller at Jack Daniel's or whatever has no influence, but I'm also saying that, that's a well-established brand with a recipe and a flavor profile.
Like, it has to be consistent. It has to be the same.
Right. I mean, his or her goal would be to make the same juices they made before, because that's the job.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas as craft distillers, we do that to a certain degree, but we're also more actively creating new flavor profiles, brands, labels. And,
So it's gonna change. I know it'll.
Yeah, you put a new chef. It's the difference between a line cook and a chef. You put a new chef in a restaurant with, different everything, and I would expect you're gonna get different cuisine. Is it good or bad? Well,
it's up to you.
You go and make
very
up your
diplomatic
own mind.
answer, man. That's good. But I know it's got to be. You've got some friends and some foes. It's like a really interesting. Do you wish your ex-girlfriend ill will? It's like hard to say. Sometimes yes.
It really depends on the circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain people that you look back and you're like, I really don't feel good about how things went down between us.
Yeah.
And so we don't really need to do any of that anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm good.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are other people that kind of got caught, and not to either blame them or excuse them or whatever. But, I don't have the same feelings about some people as I do about others. Yeah. But, I mean, nonetheless, I think that it's really just they're on their own.
Yeah.
And it'll be what it'll be.
But you've got, so you got this beautiful space. You showed me the chill. Shit, man, I got a crash course in this massive amount of equipment you guys have brought on. Mm-hmm. So what do you want to? This will be whiskey again with Tate and Co. Right? Tate and Company, Tate and Co. What's better?
Either one. Tate and Company, Tate and
TNC.
Right. Yeah, I mean we did a little bit of brandy last year, very little bit, and we're looking forward to doing some more. That's a new thing. There'll be some other things like that, some stuff I've done before and some stuff I haven't done before, but we're definitely still a whiskey distillery first and foremost.
Right.
That's, I'll say, the center of my heart. It's not that those other things aren't in my heart too, right. But I'm primarily a whiskey guy.
So when did you end up in this spot? What time, or how far after December of 2014 did you end up over here?
Well, I took a little bit of time. I waited 24 hours before I founded the company. Waited 2.5, 3 weeks before I closed on this building.
Jesus, that's amazing.
So, no, I mean, I just, as I'd always said, it's like, look, I'm gonna make whiskey.
Yeah, whether you like it or not.
I'm gonna make whiskey. That's what I do, and so we don't need to debate that, discuss that. We just need to talk about whether we're going to do it together.
Yeah.
That's really all we have to discuss.
That's amazing. So when do you suspect that all the rest of the build out's going to be done here?
Well, we're shooting for summer, and I just say it like that because there's so many moving pieces,
right? Yeah.
Administrative and physical plant and all of that's definitely doable.
Yeah.
I would be disappointed but not surprised if things delay us a little longer than that.
Yeah, sure.
So, I have to kind of give myself that pep talk at least once a week. Is just say, look, it's this tension.
Yeah.
It's your job to kind of push forward as quickly as is reasonable and shoot for the moon. And when you fall short, which often you do, look at the fact you got a long way, rather than not as far as you might have in some sort of ideal,
Absolutely.
So you balance it back and forth. But yeah, I mean, honestly, we've actually done a lot of good work. I mean, we started the copper works here. I always joke I'm an accidental still builder. The first time I did it, I intended to buy a still and heavily modify it. I didn't literally rebuild it, but I all but rebuilt it. I kept 2 out of 12 parts or something like that. And then the next set of stills I built from scratch, and the next set of stills there I built from scratch. And actually the stills that are there at Balcones, I designed with Richard Forsyth and worked on a little bit while I was there at Forsyth, I guess a couple of years ago. But part of it was the particular types we wanted. I mean, Forsyth is a great company. They could have done a great job with it.
Yeah.
They're far too busy. Richard still helped us out in a number of ways in terms of sourcing materials, but it was clear that if we wanted the stills that I knew I wanted, and we wanted them before 2019,
you're gonna have to
build it ourselves. So I'm like, all right, we'll build it ourselves. But it also meant that we could, we could build more capacity that would make financial sense if we were buying all of the equipment new.
I see. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because, as you might expect, the labor and materials is a portion of what you pay for a still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But there's a good bit of profit and, other things like that. And so if you're willing to put in the work and you've got the expertise and whatever, you can
just do it.
You can do a lot. You can do a lot more with a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
To build your stills.
So there you are with your torch welding this still, and I mean the ambiance here. It's so fresh and live. I was talking to you earlier how it's so they're not, the desks aren't there even, the ceilings aren't even there yet, but you feel like it's building. It's just kind of building up.
Yeah, that's a really exciting feeling. We're kind of every day you see a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah,
and it's fun, especially because I'm not actually an engineer by training, but I've had some training in that. I'm certainly not an artist.
Yeah.
But in terms of with a pen and pencil, But to actually sit and draw out the
still is amazing,
and put it together and kind of see that come to life is pretty exciting.
That's very cool. So we're aiming for, or not we're, but but the industry rallies together so that you're opening in summer. The brandy's going to be first.
The brandy was the first thing we made. First thing we released, I don't know.
Yeah. The brandy's here, isn't it?
The brandy's
somewhere.
Well, no, it's not here.
Okay.
Because we don't have a bond. Yet, right? Because we got to go through that whole deal. But we've got some friends who helped us out distilling that and are keeping it.
Oh, cool.
Iron Republic is a great set of friends of mine. I helped them out a little bit when they were getting started, but it's been a great boon to be able to distill some stuff there.
Yeah, that's great.
But the reason I say I don't know is, one, to be a great brandy, it has to be 2 years old.
Yeah.
So unless I decide to both distill something else, mix that in with the great brandy, figure out whatever that's called in TTB, and get that approved to sell it in less than 2 years.
And you're waiting 2 years.
It's quite possible.
Yeah.
But, there's a number of things we put out historically, or I've put out historically, that are less than 2 years old. So it may not be the first thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. We still got to figure out the whole... I hate the required aging time frames. Not that it's bad to have a 2-year-old brandy. It's just, I feel like it's coming along really well, and I would like to be able to put it out when I feel it's ready.
Yeah, for sure. Despite the age.
Whenever that is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's good. I mean, this is going to be it, man. The next phase, the next chapter.
You want to try the brandy actually? Because I have a little tiny sample.
Yeah, of course I want to try the brandy. We'll try it. So we'll wrap and Chip. Like, you are a behemoth in this industry in the craft. And like, I mean, I'm not trying to flatter you or anything. Like, you're a guy. You're a dude. You're a guy. We're sitting here chatting.
Yeah,
it's been really, really good, and I've learned a lot about you.
Yeah,
it's cool that you love being a father. It's cool that you like being a distiller, and it's even better that you don't want to put up with people's shit. I think that's great.
And I almost feel, I don't want to say I feel bad about that in some cases. The things that I would like to think, I mean, sure, I can be a stubborn jerk like anybody sometimes, right?
Well, who can't?
I like to think that I'm not too much. I like to think that when people call me on it, I can be like, you know what, you're right. That was a jerk thing to do. It's my bad.
Yeah.
But the things that I've stuck on in terms of corporate structure and a lot of other things, I feel are genuinely important.
Sure.
They're not just important to me. They're, it's kind of, we saw a Steve Jobs movie recently. My wife and I were taking a weekend away, and there's a great quote from him that I think is accurate, whatever, it's a movie. It says that artists lead and hacks look for a show of hands.
That's right.
And it's like when you're trying to do art, you can't do it that way.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't work. You can't. It's not that you don't want people to like it, but you can't pander.
You can't ask for permission. You gotta.
You gotta basically work introspectively and in collaboration with other artists, but put out there something that you believe in, and then hope people like it.
That's right.
And that's not something that a focus group can give you. It's not something that a set of investors can give you.
Mm-hmm.
And my point is that it's not just what I want, it's what they should want. It's the way to produce craft spirits the right way.
Yeah.
It's the way to be artistically and even financially successful.
Right.
And so moments where sometimes people think they want something, but you're sure they're going to end up wrecking what they're trying to protect, you dig in the most. So,
well,
for good or for bad,
Godspeed, man.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
And this is going to be an amazing facility.
I think so. I think it's really going to be a great space, not only for us, but for other craft distillers. We're hoping to do some collaborative work with folks.
It'll be amazing.
And, we're hoping to really add something, not only to our own work, but to the movement.
Yeah, and I think you will. And I hope we get to work together.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be a lot of fun. I'm really digging your juice.
I appreciate that. That's a nice compliment.
High degree of finesse. Very tasty.
Thanks, man. Well, Chip, it's been a pleasure. Let's go taste that brandy, shall we?
Let's do it.
Thanks.
All right.
Well, there we have it. What do you guys think? I am so in awe of Chip's intelligence. He taught me just in a few hours' time so much about whiskey, so much about the industry. He is just one of the most dynamic and brilliant minds I've ever been around and gotten to like pick his brain about stuff. And I want to share real briefly to the trip out to Waco this afternoon that I went out there and chatted. I didn't know what to expect. You know, I had heard so many things about Chip, people saying how arrogant he is, how intimidating, and none of these things are true, mind you. If you can just sit and talk and really just shoot the shit with him, it's just a wonderful experience. And he's a great father. But I show up, and there's this amazing distillery. It's massive, lots of raw equipment. You have so many conditioning barrels. And I walk into this room where the stills are being made. That's right. Chip is making his stills for this brandy and this new distillery. You see Chip, he's got a firearm in his back pocket. He's smoking a cigar, and he's got a torch as he's running some, proofing, if you will, kind of putting more copper at the seams of his new pot still. And that was an image I will never forget. And Chip, thank you so much for what you've done for whiskey. Thank you so much for what you've done for education of the industry. And man, it was so great sharing Sotol with you, and it was great sharing Racia, which I would have never expected. And thank you for dinner and the beautiful wedding gift. This is the thing about the industry. We talk about community. We talk about being hospitable. This is a lovely place to be, and I am really thankful. And I hope you guys enjoy listening to Show to Be with myself, Mike G. No matter what whiskey you're drinking, no matter what brandy you're looking forward to sipping coming out of Tate & Co., please keep dancing.